What fact sounds fake at first, but is actually real? There isn't a single bridge across the Amazon River. I'm so glad all those bridges across the Amazon River found love. God damn it. Orcas are a natural predator to moose. Explain please. Moose swim between islands, or from land to islands, and orcas annihilate them from below. The guy who sang Peanut Butter Jelly Time died in a police shootout. Also, his brother-in-law was there trying to talk him out of shooting himself. You know who that stepbrother was, ducking Snoop Dogg. This is some Albert Einstein copper pasta level shit, but it's completely real. I can't believe this is true. I just looked it up, and it's 100% legit. One 10-inch pizza is more pizza than two 7-inch pizzas. It's amazing the difference just a couple of inches can make. Carrot OHR, yeah. That's just the tip of the iceberg. When compasses were first used on ships, sailors were afraid of them because they thought it had evil powers. Compasses were stored in boxes called a binnacle. I mean, that's like the first form of navigation. I'd be spooked too if a little piece of metal inexplicably pointed me to something. We are used to many generations of over-the-air networking, 802, 11G, 4G, and people are still spooked by 5 grams. A compass should be hella scary back then. Chickens are one of many species of birds that don't have penetrative genitalia. Read, cocks are cockless. The method of reproduction they use is commonly called a cloacal kiss, and you can think of it as chickens scissoring, because bumping holes is the grossest possible way to phrase chicken sex. Also, chickens are not a flightless species like lots of people think, and are generally totally capable of short flight. Cocks are cockles is probably the best sequence of 3 words I've ever read. Inversely, bumping holes is the worst sequence of 2 words. Jack the Ripper was still active when Nintendo was founded, but they were just a card company then. Correct? Yeah. Specifically a form of picture card in Japan called Hanafuda cards, made because card-based gambling was illegal. Netflix was founded before Google. Don't like that. It originally didn't use the net. On average, Mercury is the closest planet to Saturn. How? So this actually holds true for any planet. We will look at Mercury and Earth. Think about the relative size of their orbits. The diameter of Mercury's orbit is very small in comparison to Earth's. The furthest away Mercury can ever get is the opposite side of the Sun. When Mars or Venus is on the opposite side of the Sun from Earth, they are way further away than Mercury would ever be. Mercury also has a very fast orbit. One orbit only takes 88 days. So it is at its closest to Earth way more often than Mars or Venus is close to Earth. This is why in my original comment I started with on average. Pocahontas and Shakespeare lived during the same time. Also, Anne Frank and Martin Luther King Jr. were born in the same year. And if they were still alive, they would both be younger than the current Queen of the UK. A typical cumulus cloud actually weighs 1 million pounds, 951 kilograms. That's a lot of cumulus. Just imagine how much the blue ones must weigh. Lyrebirds imitations will seriously sound exactly like the thing they are trying to imitate. If they imitate a chainsaw, you will think it's a chainsaw. It sounds like a perfect recording. I like it when they do the laser gun sound effects. Pew pew pew. Link. B/Y0TPP7M40. T equals 45. Hes playing Star Wars. There used to be a species of parrot native to what is now Kentucky and Tennessee. Damn, KFP killed them all before moving on to chicken. In a room of just 23 people, there's a 50 to 50 chance of at least 2 people having the same birthday. Link.com/article/understanding the birthday paradox/ At one point my class had 4 people with the same day. A common ingredient in chemotherapy is horse sperm. Of course, listed under some long medical term. I used to deliver 100-pound tubes of it to companies that make the drugs. Thrombin, a drug to stop bleeding, is made from hamster ovaries. Imagine collecting those. That's not entirely true. Human thrombin protein is made using modified Chinese hamster ovarian cells, CHO cells. These cells are commonly used to produce proteins in laboratory research and commercial manufacturing. The cells are not organized into ovaries. They are either cultured on surfaces in flasks, usually lab research, or in suspension within larger tanks, for mass production by companies. Source: I worked with these cells and other research cell lines during my Master of Science. There are more people on Earth than rats. I mean, honestly, how many people can you fit on a rat? People in Europe feared the tomato for over 200 years because they thought eating it would kill them. It was even nicknamed the poison apple. Link: Smithsonian mag.com/artsculture/why the tomato was feared in Europe for more than 200 years. 863,735 Yeah, but it was lead. Yes, I remember something like that. Explorers of America brought the fruit/vegetable back to England. The chef prepared it, and when the people at the court ate it, they got terribly sick. This was due to the chemical reaction between the tomato's acid and the lead plates they used. It takes 2 years for a pineapple to grow. Have a pineapple plant in my yard. Can confirm. It's now year 4, and it's about to bear second fruit, and you only get one pineapple. Pineapples are similar to bananas, in that they normally produce fruit once. Pick a banana bunch, then chop the tree down. Pick the pineapple, remove the plant, then remove the pineapple top and plant that. Have grown many bananas and pineapples. El Paso, Texas is closer to Los Angeles than it is to Beaumont, Texas. Similarly, Phoenix to Houston is the same as Houston to Indianapolis. Edit Texas Bibagaff. Most of the United States is closer to Texas than Texas is to Texas. During WWII, the Polish army had a brown bear in their ranks. The bear was really helpful to the force, particularly for carrying heavy artillery. After the war he lived his retirement at the Edinburgh Zoo and has an own life-size statue in the Prince's Street Gardens. The bear was on the payroll of the Polish army as well. Username checks out. The Panama Canal runs primarily north/south. And the Atlantic side is further west than the Pacific side. Hold up. What? Edit. That is so weird. I guess it just always assumed that the canal went west to east and wasn't diagonal like that. The Nazis were the first ever people in modern history to start an anti-smoking and tobacco movement, or being from Scotland, and finding out the national animal is the unicorn. Nazis introduced Good Samaritan laws in France. The entire state of Wyoming only has 2 escalators. Wyoming? Never heard of them. I live in Wyoming and I've never seen either of them. You can fit all the planets in our solar system touching end to end between Earth and the Moon. I just did the math checking all diameters to distance only leaves 277 miles of wiggle room. What should we put in said wiggle room? Distance from USA to Russia 4 kilometers. This fact is always amusing. Every Canadian is allowed to get a free Canadian flag from the government. However, if you ordered a flag today you would get it in about 110 years. It used to be only a couple years until recently, until the fact got out wide and far and everyone signed up for it. And it's the flag raised at the top of Parliament, replaced daily. Okay. That made no sense till you explained that there was only one per day available. A bunch of pissed off Scots who hated the way England played rugby is why we have the quarterback position in American football. Edit. Adding for relevant history, both the Cal and Stanford University football teams we know today played the New Zealand All Blacks in rugby during the 1910s. Tell me more. The English, primarily the academic and economic elite, in the southern areas of England, invent rugby, and use it to establish their amateurism and dominance. Manly men. Good Christian models. Blah 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 blah. The northern areas play the game to serve as a break from reality of a hard blue collar life. And the entire community would be invested in the game. Since England invented the game and naturally had the most and best players, they play a straightforward, forward-heavy game relying on using their pack weight and size to bulldoze over opponents. Rugby positions were consistent with all football positions. Rugby, soccer, and American football were all one single sport at one point. The positions are forwards, halfbacks, behind the forwards, and fullbacks, behind the halfbacks. Note, rugby and soccer both overlapped a ton in their infancy, so a lot of their histories cross paths between clubs who primarily played rugby or soccer club playing a club who primarily focuses on the other sport. Before they became two different sports, association football and rugby football, you typically play according to the rules of the home team. The English tried to establish proper ways to play the game. And of course, they encouraged rugby clubs to play their way, a matter of may the bigger and stronger man win approach, rather than using a forward-focused game. Many Scottish, along with Northern English clubs started using a more pass-heavy, wide-open game that involved getting the ball to the backs, and using multiple maneuvers and tactics. Because duck the elite. Within rugby rules football, some Scottish clubs went so far as to actually take a forward out of the game, and added an extra back instead. This back would play between the forwards and the halfbacks to help the ball get into space more quickly and with more speed. They called this position between the forwards and halfbacks the quarterback. Now Walter Camp develops American rugby football because that really was what our game was and was called in the beginning. He prefers the wide open method as well and was influenced by the play of a lot of Scottish clubs. So as rugby football grew in the US, the popular style of play was the Scottish quarterback variation. Now change the rules in 1906, and you have the American football we have today. Humpty Dumpty was never an egg. There is no mention of him being an egg in the rhyme at all. It is believed that Humpty Dumpty was actually a cannon on a wall, which was destroyed. Even though this does not sound fake and makes sense, I didn't know it, and it's funny, so take my upvote. There are so many nursery rhymes that mean something totally different. That's why they were probably written to convey a lesson or to talk about some historical facts, but their meanings were lost in time. Anyway, thanks for the upvote. A Russian luxury SUV manufacturer attempted and failed to use whale penis skin for their SUV interiors. Rub the seats, and they got too hard to sit on. What if you keep on rubbing? Stop signs used to be yellow. In 1922, the American Association of State Highway Officials met to determine a standard design for stop signs. And that's where they decided on the color, yellow, because they thought that would grab drivers' attention. They'd also considered red, but there was no dye available at the time that wouldn't eventually fade. By 1954, sign makers had access to fade-resistant porcelain enamel and could finally start making stop signs the red color recognized today. I think I saw one of those once. Dinosaurs never ate grass because it didn't exist yet. Sharks evolved before grass did. So that's why sharks don't eat grass. A lot of the earliest war gods were actually goddesses. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.